Hi, welcome to the Reading Rift. I'm Lydia, and today I am joined by husband and wife romance duo Piper and Jack Davenport. Thank you guys so much for being here today to talk with me.
Thank you so much for having us. We're excited.
Our pleasure.
For listeners, in this episode, we will get to know the authors. We're going to ask them questions about their writing and their publishing, and of course, their books, which is a lot. Between the two of them, they've written a lot of books. And then we're going to play a little silly game about what is it like to be having two writers in a marriage. And then we'll learn about kind of the bulk of the interview will be what is it like to be married to someone that has a creative passion, and how do you truly support somebody with what they're passionate about. So let's get started. First, I want to ask Piper, because I was looking on your social media and you posted a video recently. It was like, in 1985, you'll be forced to move to a different country, but you'll tell everyone that you're going to go back to America and marry a drummer. Please give us the story there, because that is like so much in just that one sentence.
Yeah. So I was born in New Zealand. I am a Kiwi. And my dad's American. And when my parents divorced, my mom moved us back to New Zealand. And I was there for about a week. And I said, no, I don't want to be here. No, I want to go back to America. I don't want to get here. So I told everybody I had met up with I had gone to school with a band, and they were the big, like Poison. They opened for Poison back in the 80s. This is going to age me. And I did all their makeup. So they were the biggest band. They kind of made it after I left, kind of a thing. And so I did all of
Your makeup was holding them back. I never did the math. Wow. They just needed to.
They just needed me to leave the country. So
And they started Weta. No.
No, it was revenge success. It was
Yeah.
like,
Yes, revenge success.
I told everybody when I was 15, I'm moving to America and I'm marrying a drummer. And I would not hear anything else. And everybody's like, you're insane. And people would tell my mom, she's
She's delusional and setting herself up for failure.
And so I finally, it's really hard to get into America, even if your dad is American.
In 1980. Yeah.
So I finally got back and I started taking drum lessons, not because I necessarily wanted to play. I just wanted to be able to set up and tear down my husband's kit. And I wanted to speak intelligently about drums. And in the end, I learned to play. And so, we sit down together sometimes and play together. And there's videos out there occasionally of me playing with him. And I have my own set. I apparently have two now because he insisted on me getting another set, but he's co-opted the second set for him.
What you don't see in the frame is a lot of
Drums.
It's a lot of drums. Drums on this side, guitars on this side.
Yeah.
And she is no one to talk, because half the purchases in here were based on her going, ooh, that's pretty. Do you have one of those guitars?
Yes, it's true.
No. Do you like it in that color? Why, yes, I do. Me too. And then it shows up.
Yeah,
So she likes the pretty things, but
So we're not in the church anymore, but we were in the church for a very long time. And I met this girl, and she goes, I go to this Bible study filled with long-haired musicians. And I said, I'm there. And she goes, well, I don't have a car. I said, I do. Let's go. And we had to drive for over an hour and a half to get to this Bible study. And I met him about 3 weeks in, and I went, oh, no, that's not what I had in mind at all. He's 3 years younger than me. No, that won't work.
broke.
And broke, yeah.
I would have had to be making more money just to be broke. I was a part-time youth pastor for a Salvation Army church in A Street in Hayward, California.
Yeah, in the ghetto. But he set his sights on me, and there was no way he was going to let go. So, and phenomenal musician. I mean, drummer, long hair, drummer, blue eyes, loved kids. I mean, I had a list. I was like, he had to love kids, hate skinny women, the whole deal. It's just like, oh yeah, he was it. He just, so it was, we 33 years later, and we're here.
So I guess 7 months after meeting, we got engaged.
Yep.
Within a year, we were married, and that was 33 years ago. So which seems like it was yesterday, which is crazy. But it's a whole other lifetime ago, and we were just wide-eyed, earnest kids trying to save the world. We can do this through love and music. Come on, man. Let's start a band. Let's start a religion. Let's start a revolution. Whatever we could do to kind of inject some love into the world.
Yep.
It didn't work. So we had to become romance authors to do it. And that works.
Yeah.
We spread the love everywhere we can.
Yeah, we try anyway.
Yeah, she fled her own country to come to America, marry a long-haired drummer, and it worked.
Yep.
It worked, which just infuriated everybody.
It did. It really pissed everybody off. And I love America. I mean, I'm probably the most patriotic person you'll ever meet. I'm very pro-America.
I love that.
We have major problems.
We have problems, but they're better than everywhere else, let me tell you.
And there are problems, and we want to solve them from within. Again, the love thing. It's not political. It's about people. It's about love.
I think Americans are the greatest people on earth. It's not about who's in power or who's in the White House. It's about the people.
We the people.
Yeah.
We the people.
So anyway.
That's awesome. You should have specified a rich drummer, and then maybe Jack would have been blessed.
I was so
maybe he would have been blessed.
Yeah, you got everything on the list, but yeah, why couldn't you?
I also said I didn't want a yes man, which was really stupid. I was like, oh man.
So moral of the story is that be specific with your goals.
Yes.
And because they do come true. So your dreams come true.
On the other side, I was an active musician working on being a full-time touring musician. I also wanted a family, and I was deathly afraid of how am I going to find a woman that understands I'm a musician, I'm going to be out on the road. Boy, it'd be great if she'd even want to go out on the road with me, but where are you going to find a woman like that? It's never, ever going to happen. And she shows up it was a giant warehouse where some of us lived. It was artists and furniture makers and musicians and chefs, and like 6 of us lived there. And then every Sunday night we'd roll up the double doors and there'd be about 200 weirdo hippie Jesus freaks, the 90s, all trying to figure out how do we do church? It's not like our parents, and we don't want to do it like that, but is there a way to do it? And we tried. We really tried. We had a clothing bank and a food bank, and we do all sorts of interesting things. But she walks into where I live, and there she is, woman of my dreams, my own list. And it was like she wanted to sign up for it. And it did. Yeah, that was it. One date, and I was absolutely in. Absolutely. Yeah. But it didn't take too long.
I will say that delusional people exist, because my husband also, when I met him, he owned a trucking company over the road. So when I met him, he was in and out of town all the time, never home. But I for some reason fell for the trap, and our life has been crazy ever since. But I would not change it for a normal pace, steady life. So, but I do sometimes I think I'm like, when I met my husband, he was literally living in a shed on his parents' property in the middle of nowhere, Texas. And I'm like, he didn't have, what did I pay attention to? I was delusional because he didn't have any money either. He was never in town. He was no stability. I mean, when you love them,
it's about
resist.
That. You fall in love with them, not what they can do.
Yeah. Right. Potential. I married potential because we built a really beautiful life, and I wouldn't change that.
Well,
so I love that.
The major thing we had in common then and now was neither of us wanted to live a normal life.
Yeah.
We were posing as normal people. We were in the San Francisco Bay Area in Silicon Valley, right around the .com boom. So we were working for big, .coms. It wasn't even called the .com boom yet. It was even right before that. Search engines were a new thing. This is pre-Google. But it's right on that bubble. And we had office jobs, and I had to cut my hair a couple times. And it's, we were we were traveling on normal people's papers only until we could go, here's who we really are, and we didn't know that then, but it's looking back. That's
totally.
We would not walk that path now, but we're so glad we did them because we bumped into each other on it. And it's literally why we write what we write. And sometimes people go, oh, your books are kind of insta-love. I'm like, yeah, that's what we know. And they're like, yeah, everybody's kind of got a crazy life. It's like, yeah, that's what we know. We're always writing an extension of what we knew back then and before. And it sounds unbelievable to say the story out loud. It sounds like its own romance story. And it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes she wants to kill me and choke me in my sleep. and I deserve it.
And that's why we write, because it helps us explore these dark themes in ourselves without doing anything.
We write because murder is frowned upon in this establishment.
Yes. I wanted to ask, what did you both, when you were kids growing up, what did you think you wanted to be when you grew up versus what you became?
It's going to be a chiropractor.
Okay.
I forgot about that.
That I was going to be a chiropractor. And then
How long did you think you were going to be a chiropractor?
for years, because my dad's cousin is a chiropractor. So I thought for sure.
Like, yeah, I got an in on the chiropractor.
I thought but then I was going to have to go to Australia. I was like, oh no, that's just too much. I am inherently lazy. So I wasn't going to go to Australia. So I'm like, no, and plus too much. It's like 8 years at school.
We got it.
Sorry.
You're not a chiropractor. We understand. You didn't go down that road.
So then it was, okay, then I'll be an executive assistant, because that will be easy to leave when my husband's on the road. So I was like, okay, so that's what I ended up doing, basically.
Wow.
But I never wanted to be a writer, ever.
So she
Because my grandmother and my mother were. So I didn't want to write.
She liked being... She's a very supportive person, so she would support like the CEO or the CFO, the VPs or whatever. So she liked being around the action, but in a very supportive role, and never saw herself as a dominant force in anything.
I was event coordinator too, and I loved that, but I didn't want to.
She liked being the hostess and serving people.
I think I relate to that too. Like with my husband being a writer, love, like my Instagram and TikTok names was married to a writer. Like I love supporting him, but I do know that when my kids are older and he's like established, I do have books in my head that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write this, but first I'm enjoying this, like supporting him and supporting we've got young little kids, so we're like in that really bumpy phase of life where diapers and all those fun things. So I relate to that, where you find wholesome joy in supporting other people. It's not like I'm lessening myself or putting my dreams aside. You're like, I really enjoy this. This brings me fulfillment.
Completely pivot to what I thought I was going to do. If you had asked me when I was little, it was always artist, comedian, or author. And I love to write. I love to read. I love to write. And then 8th grade, towards the tail end of 8th grade, I saw my first Van Halen concert. It was just on TV even, and I went, whatever they're doing right there, that is, this hangs on my wall. It's the first thing you see when you walk into my studio, because I want to be reminded of that kid and why he wanted an interesting life. Everything else went the wayside, and it was just, I want to be a musician. I want to be a drummer or a guitar player, both. I'll learn to sing. I'll learn to record the stuff. Sure, whatever it takes. And so when I met her, and it was like, well, I'm a musician. And she went, great. What can I do to help? I'll sell T-shirts. I'll sell tapes back then. I'll be at every show. I'll take all your pictures. I mean, 20 years of doing that. And she barely missed a show. Like if she missed a show, it was because she'd been barfing up a lung or something. She was hardcore. And so when she, and just loved being the support. Everybody was like, are you okay with him getting all this attention? She's like, no, I love it. And then when he
down his kids, he could be out talking,
gabbing with everybody, which all that would later parlay into talking to people at signings and stuff. So everything that we learned in the corporate world, how to deal with people, how to handle your money, plus everything that we learned at church, how to deal with volunteers, how to deal with interesting, difficult people sometimes, everything we learned in rock and roll, how to sell merch, how to not clam up when people come up to you and say hi, and that you need to give them all your time because it's the only reason you do what you do. And we kind of learned all of that. And so when she started writing and took off almost immediately, I was like, great, like you, I get to be the supportive one now. I'm now mostly what I do, which music related, is producing and recording, and I have the studio in my home, so I don't need to be out there doing it. This is great. I can just be producing, and she's doing her thing, and this is fantastic. And then she roped me into it.
Yeah.
And now we're both artists, and neither of us know what's going on, and nobody's in charge. She used to be in charge. She had the plans. She knew what was going on, and now she asks me, what day is it? And I'm going, this is not good. We are both going to fall into a volcano now. You had the plan. I'm the dreamer. Now you're a dreamer? Oh, boy.
When did you... So it sounds like for Piper, you didn't plan on being a writer? Because it sounds like you had some, like, I'm not going to be like my mom and grandma a little bit, but you were like, so when did you realize, I actually think this is something that I'm good at and I want to do this? What was that transition like for you?
We had a friend who's a really huge Christian author, and she'd been bugging me for years. She's like, you need to write. You have such a weird, fascinating life with Jack, and it's like, you really need to write. And I'm like, no, ew, that just sounds horrible. She's like, but you have a story in you.
And you're a voracious reader.
Yeah, I read constantly. And I'm like, well, but okay, whatever, but don't want to write for the Christian market. Because she's like, you really need to write. And I'm like, but I don't want to write for the Christian market. And we were so immersed in the church at the time. And I had read a really bad traditional romance. And I was like, oh my God, the amount of typos. And it was just somebody hadn't edited it. I was like, this is horrible. And I didn't even finish it. It was just so bad. And I thought, well, I could do better than this. And I had a book in me. I had ideas flowing. Like obviously, I'm obsessed with the American Civil War. Lincoln is everything to me. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to write a time travel. And there had been a book that had so imprinted on me. It's called Timeless Passion, Constance O'Flannery. It's time travel back to the Civil War.
I can see the cover. That's so familiar.
And I mean, there's some problems in it. I mean, it was written back, I think, in the 80s, and it's a little bit problematic now to this day, but it made such an impression on me, and I love that book. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could do something like that. Like I could write my own time travel back to the Civil War. And what would happen if do we change history? What happens? And
Can you
change history? And so I wrote the series is 9 books, and then it's wrapped up in my paranormal series and the whole deal. I wrote a race of people who can't live in temperatures over 68 degrees because I can't. I like it cold. That's why we live in the Pacific Northwest.
She was dying of a heat stroke.
Yeah.
And aha!
Yeah. So, but what had happened was both at the time.
You did it. You just didn't know what had happened was. It was
what had happened? Jack and this woman had said, you should take the sex out. And I'm like, what? No, I love sex. I read sex. It's wonderful. But he was a pastor at the time, and we were working with the youth. And I thought, fine. And I made New York Times, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? I don't like this. So it's fine. I made New York Times, whatever. And I was writing under my real name at the time. And then I got mad because I had somebody go, and I said, I write clean, but not squeaky. That was my whole kind of tagline of who I was as an author. Someone wrote, well, you have this many asses, this many damn it. Somebody took the time to count them. And I'm like, that's it. I'm done. We're done. And he goes, well, just write under a pen name. Then she said, I want to write sex. I like sexy books, so I want to write sexy. But I don't read clean. But she didn't want to alienate her clean audience. Right. She'd just found success with her name. Right. And we said, well, just write under a pen name. And then I had an author friend go, well, just go New York Times bestselling author Tracy Jane Jackson writing as Piper Davenport. I'm like, you're allowed to do that? I didn't know you were allowed to do that. People do it all the time. Because it wasn't about hiding her identity. We didn't care. No. So, but once because she literally said, well, then who am I? And I said, Piper Davenport. Because to me, it just sounded like a romance author name. I thought it was. And there was nobody else out there named Piper Davenport. So I put sex. I still had my old files with the sex in them. So I just added the sex back in, re-released the books under Piper Davenport. I unpublished everything under Tracy and released them and took off again. And then we both made USA Today. So it was like before USA Today shut down. So it's like right on the edge. And it was like, okay. And by then he'd been writing as Jack Davenport. So it was like, okay, great. Well, then this is working. We're just going to keep going. And I didn't feel like she would read me stuff always when she was writing. I was super supportive, but I didn't really have anything to add to Civil War time travel. I was always kind of reminding her, remember, these are time travel books. There's a little woo-woo in them because she's not a big woo-woo. No. She wasn't a sci-fi fantasy comic book, nothing. She hated all that, or not hated it, just had no experience or regard or need
for any of it. Well, once she fell in love with me, and I'm a musician, which means I'm also a nerd. So there's Star Wars, and there's movies to go to, and there's comic books, and there's all this. And she totally got into it. And of course, we had 2 boys, and so they wanted to go to Comic-Con and do all the things and go to all the Avengers movies. So then she just became the biggest nerd. Now she's first in line. When's the new whatever coming out? Hey, this, that. Oh, make sure you get our son works the AMC movie theater. Make sure you get this popcorn bucket. The Back to the Future popcorn bucket's coming out. Make sure you get us one. So she's the biggest nerd of all now. But
we have a little movie theater in our house, so it's filled with all of the posters.
So it was fun to see her create and start to get, like with the paranormal, the Caldane series, Bound by Blood was the first one. And to have this idea of, okay, well, I kind of want to play in the vampire world, but not vampires, And she went, well, okay, this immortal race of people who can't live in high temperatures. And how would you deal with that? And they would have to have, magical powers, blah, blah, blah. And you start to go down that road. But again, that was her world, and I didn't have anything to say in it. And then she started writing about bikers and dirtbags and musicians and criminals. And I was like, that's my people. That's my people. That's my family. That's my,
and it's
all of that.
his first, well, we wrote 2 Rockstar books together, but his first book that he wrote under his name by himself was called Minus, and it was originally going to be a Hitman book. And I'm like, you need to reframe that as a biker book.
Oh, all right, MC. You write MC. I don't want to.
And it's great.
I'm so happy. I kind of let it rattle in my head, and I was like, wait a minute, if it was MC, it would solve this problem I'm coming up. And it would make this up. Okay, I guess it's going to be an MC book. I was already, that's how I was already doing all her covers, and that's how I was supporting her, going to signings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I'm an introverted little chicken. So anybody else there that's an introverted little chicken, I see you. I get it. I don't want to talk to people. I'm like, no, I'm scared. He's not. So he goes out there and talks.
Drummer energy.
Yeah. And I'm like,
That's how it is with my husband and I. He's like, when I publish a book, you're going to come with me and you're going to do the talking, and I'll be there and I'll piggyback off, but you got to come up with the talking points and get me going. I love what you said about that they were like, you got to take the sex out. Because when my husband wrote his first book, I was like, honey, you can't put this in a book.
My stars.
Because I was not a reader. I had stopped reading because of school. I was in school to become a doctor. I was like always reading boring textbooks.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, you can't do this. And then I started reading. He would bring home books from the bookstore and be like, read this book. Tell me what it's about. Researching it. I read Fourth Wing, which is a pretty famous romantasy.
Yeah.
And it has some smut in it. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. You need to spice up what you put in your book.
Yeah.
You need to think people want more.
Yes. We love it.
Always
yeah.
the answer. Yes.
More. So between the two of you guys have written a lot of books, and later we'll talk about your specific books. But would you say you figured out the recipe for success in creating a story that people love at like a rate that is kind of shocking to have published as many books as you published?
I think we're somewhere around 82 or 83, 85, somewhere in there.
Yeah. See, I write what I love to read. So I think I love that it resonates with people. I think there's an authenticity there because I like it. I don't really write to market per se, which maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot sometimes with that. Maybe I need to write more to market, but I just write what I love to read.
We are working on our romantic
because
we got a good idea.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit behind the times sometimes because I run with what I want to read. The romantasy came to us and we're like, oh, great, let's work on this. But I had already started. I mean, I write 3 books at a time. So for me, it's hard because I get them put up for pre-order and I go, oh, crap, now I have another idea. And I'm like, oh, but I have these other 3 books that I have up for pre-order. So they're on deadline and I need to get those done first.
And it's not just her.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's my stupid idea.
Yeah.
And we have a saying in this house. If you think about an idea for more than 2 or 3 seconds, that idea has a very sneaky way of becoming a plan soon.
It's how our children's books happen.
Yeah.
And our son illustrated those. And it's like, oh my gosh. And he goes, after the 3rd one, he says, I don't want to do anymore. Stop it. Stop thinking.
Yeah. Stop having ideas.
My husband writes books very quickly. I would say compared to a lot of authors that I've talked to, that it takes them several months to a year plus to write
Yeah.
a book.
Yeah.
But my husband like spits these things out so fast, and I'm his first line editor. So like he writes the book, gives it to me, and I'm the first reader. I edit the first
Yeah.
draft of the book.
Yeah.
And right now I'm currently editing 3 books at the same time because he keeps popping them out faster than I can edit them. And I'm like, I'm getting burnt out, but I love what you're writing. Just like, can you slow down? But he can't. He gets
Well,
the idea, and he's like going with it.
You said a word that made me bristle a little bit because we try to release every 6 to 8 weeks. That was the goal for a long time. The last year and a half, we took some time out to deal with other stuff. With time out meant still released 5, 6 books that year or whatever, or within that time period. We're starting to get back into it more now. She had some health stuff that she had to take care of, 2 emergency surgeries back to back that, or maybe 3 over a short period of time, various things. So it was just like, okay, get all that dealt with. And now we're back on the production train. But the nice thing about us both being writers is if she gets stuck, we can work it out and talk about it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, have you thought about this or whatever that, and
he has really good ideas
helps.
that make me have to do more work. So sometimes I try really hard not to say anything because then I have to do more work.
It's true. The only thing the readers want from you is your next book.
Yeah.
So
we say we work diligently, we don't work hard.
Right. But when we're burning,
Yeah.
and it's keeping us up at night. So that you use the word when you asked, is there a formula? Definitely not a formula.
We're pantsters.
Yeah, we've never said, well, this is the first act, second act, third act. I mean, they all end up, they're stories. They've got to have a successful arc. You have to know how to write a story arc.
Yeah.
But how it gets there, sometimes the idea is really front loaded and you're like, this, and this, and this about it.
Yeah.
But most of the time, there was a guy. And you're like, well, staring at the blank page. And we get to be the first people to read the books. We always say, because we don't know. It's like, there was a guy he's from Boston. That's interesting. Didn't know that. And then,
I'm working on a book right now because I'm releasing a book on Friday, and the follow-up book to that, how the meet cute comes up is we were driving home from Seattle, and there was a crotch rocket motorcycle guy and a Harley guy, and they were basically playing leapfrog on the freeway. And I'm like, this is so dangerous. And so we were like, okay, so let's work it out in our head.
What would happen if they were recruits and the president of your club saw them doing
Like,
that?
no, she sees them. So
Follows them back to the compound. Gives them what for?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. The whole meet cute written. I've got 10,000 words in that book already written. And then he says, well, you can't write that book. You have to write you have to write Road to War.
Your club's on the verge of war and you want to write this, we like,
I had to write an entire book in between that book, which I had already gotten 10,000 words. See, he comes up with these ideas where I have to write more.
But Road to War, which is the newest in the Dogs of Fire, which is the one that she had to go back and write because she had to. That's where the plot was leading.
Right.
Is maybe the best one in the series. It's definitely one of her best books ever. It ended up being really, really
It's
cool.
really fun.
And it's based on the characters in Road to Peace. So we used to joke around with people and say, look, we're romance authors. We're writing smut. We make it as elevated as we can. We really, really care about the plot and the character development and all that stuff. Smut second. Smut's there. But I say, look, we know we're not writing War and Peace, but now she's written Peace and War. So, so congratulations. You made it.
Awesome. I want to talk a little bit more about your book specifically because you guys have thrown out a lot of names. So let's say someone finds you online and they're like, I want to try one of your books. What would be the first thing you would recommend for someone to start getting into your work?
If they like more of a paranormal, I would start with Bound by Blood. And then if they like more of the Motorcycle Club series, I would start with Road to Desire. And then anywhere in between, they can kind of drop into anything. Mine are all standalone books.
The Primal Howlers is her Colorado Motorcycle Club, and that starts with Primal Howl.
Yeah.
So, and the Davenport universe is a closed universe. So eventually, motorcycle clubs begin to do business together. Presidents of one club will fall for the sister of another club. It's it's all tangled up, and we love doing that. And there's little inside jokes and Easter eggs throughout the series. Certain restaurant names and character names and bands and things like that will pop up here and there, which is super
So the
fun.
first book of his Motorcycle Club series, Minus, his love interest is the sister of Hatch, which is the president of my motorcycle club.
And I'm on the cover of that book,
I love that.
which I argued with her about extensively. So that was on there. So then everybody knows that I'm Hatch, and Hatch is based on me. Hatch is pissed off. Woo, Jack must have got pissed off about something. Yeah, thanks for outing me. But yeah, so the Burning Saints, they're also in Portland. Oh yeah, so there's some rivalry there. Oh, I guess I'm wearing the shirt. There you go. Fly the flag. And then we have a Rockstar series. The first two have been released, Broken Road and The Road Back, and those are about drummers. And we co-wrote those. And those are the very first things that we did. When she said, "You're going to do this with me," I said, "Okay, well, you said write what you know. So I'm going to write about being a drummer, and you're going to help me." And she said, "Okay, just the first one, though." I said, "Right, just the first one." So we did the first one. We had so much fun that we did the second one. And then she's like, "You have to go off on your own now. Go, 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 go." But we had so much fun writing those. And then, the Burning Saints. And then we have a co-write that's the first in a trilogy that is a gritty, painted. It's called Painted Lady. And it's the first in what will be a trilogy about a female serial killer with two male suitors. So we call it Dexter meets Pride and Prejudice. Two suitors with very different interests and motives, and a female who is just a wickedly delicious character to write. And it's dark, it's gritty. Most people have really, really gone for it. We've had a couple readers go, "Not what I was expecting from you." Wow, and that's okay too.
Very dark.
Yeah, but we really, really loved writing that one. So we'll probably have
I love
some
that you guys have I love the closed universe thing, because I think readers that are been through the ringer with you guys, been through along the journey, that they love stuff like that. I love when authors have books that interconnect, but not super interconnect. You have to have read all 80 books to know what's going on.
Right,
but
right.
You can understand if oh, I know this author, I know what they're talking about here, but you can still continue to read the book if you're new. So I think that's a really great way to include your loyal fans, but also still bring in new people and not make them feel left out. Sometimes series that are too big, as a reader, I get nervous to read a certain author, or I'm because I'm going to not understand because of all the nuances. My brother is really into Brandon Sanderson, and he's a really big fantasy author, epic fantasy. And I get really scared to read the books because they're this multi-universe realms blending, and I'm I don't know if I'm smart enough for that.
But I don't need homework, y'all. I'm trying to unplug my brain here a little bit.
I'm coming to escape. But there's something out there for everybody. That's how my brother escapes. I would like some smut in my books to escape. I wanted to ask about your publishing, because you guys have pretty good followings online and a lot of interaction. And so I was wondering, when you first started, what made you decide, I'm going to try to go traditional versus the self-publishing, and what was your guys' experiences doing that?
From agents and traditional publishers at the very beginning. And I didn't like what they were offering. I could make much more going self-publishing versus going traditional publishing. And I also had the guidance of the really big published author, and she was making nothing.
The writing world was just starting to shift. Harry Potter and Twilight. Harry Potter kind of reintroduced the world to reading, it felt like. And then Twilight was just starting to around this time.
I think didn't come out until 2012. So I published in 2010.
Right. So
Stephanie Meyer hadn't even come out.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So it was just the Harry Potter thing. And so with young readers comes young writers, and with the self-publishing thing just coming on, it was clear that the trad publishing world was behind.
Right.
Just like we were seeing in the music business. Streaming and MP3s and all that were just coming on, and the major labels did not know how to deal with that. Oh. So we were kind of seeing both worlds disappear and going, well, I guess it's DIY. I guess it's punk rock. I guess we're loading the van ourselves.
And she had like, I had watched her struggle with these contracts that she was given. This is a woman who sold millions and millions.
It's squillions of dollars for other people.
Yeah, millions of books. And she's like, here she is. She's selling these omnibuses for, I don't know, $80, and she's making $1.15. And everybody else is getting the bulk of that. She's not. So she's getting these checks for $10, and she's sold 100 copies of these books that she's spent all this time. And I'm like, I got to see behind the curtain a little bit. And I'm like,
and they were asking their publishers things like, what about e-readers? What about publishing our books? And they were going, I don't know about that. Let's just wait and see about that, because they were back trying to figure out how to write the contracts to keep all the money with that. And it was really clear what was going on.
Yeah. So, I had a couple of trad pubs make offers, and I looked at the contracts and I went, this is bad. This is really bad.
Advances had gone all but gone away.
I mean, they were paltry, maybe $1,000, $5,000. I'm like, no, this is not good. And I thought, I had worked for HTML, worked for AOL and Netscape, and I had learned to write HTML code. And I had bitched about it the whole time, going, what do I need HTML code for? Come to find out, when I go to format my books, if there's a problem in how they look, I can go into the code and fix it. And so that type of thing has been
eliminated the need for
vellum
or
I can fix it in the code myself. I just format it in Word. If there's a problem, I take it down to the code level and I can fix it. So I was like, oh.
She got an editor early on.
I did. I had a really amazing editor. But what was it? And it's interesting because I go back and I go, okay, well, maybe this was why, because she couldn't do the sex.
Yeah.
Once I started writing sex, she goes, oh.
She was very sweet about it. We understood it, yeah.
But by then, she basically taught me to write. She was just phenomenal. And I was like, well, I don't really need an editor. I have so many great beta readers. So I have somebody now who does a content edit for me. And then the line editors are my beta readers.
And they're fantastic.
It's phenomenal. They find missing words and things like that. But I am a competent enough writer now that I know where the periods and the commas and things go. And the formatting, I'm so incredibly myopic about formatting, and I can fix anything that goes wrong because I fix it in the code. So now my books look professional. They look like a trad pub person has, done it. I mean, now it doesn't really matter because nobody cares. It's Wild West out there. So I have to let that go. But it really was that I could make so much more money not going the traditional way, because they just were kind of screwing people. And so it was like, I put my book up. I put the first 3 books of the Civil War Brides series up, and then I put the first book up for free. And by that, I didn't have to have a real
job. That changed everything. One day it was like 10,000, 20, like how many people how many people are out there? How many people can read? And then the next day it gained a little more, and it gained a little more. By the time
it was just making more money.
Because at first she really she was like, self-publishing isn't real publishing. I want to be a trad published book. I want to be in a bookstore. I want to be on an end cap at a grocery store somewhere. And then you find out, well, do you want to pay 10 to 20 grand for the privilege of being on that end cap?
Pay for that.
You want to, and it's like, well, no, not really. And so by the time the e-publishing thing really started to take off and everybody started to get Kindles for Christmas, for once we felt like, we've actually caught a wave. We weren't a little late or a little early for it, which had been the story of our life, right? This was like, we're actually in the appropriate market at the appropriate time with the appropriate product. And then 50 Shades of Grey came along. The rising tide
just blew it open for all of
everybody.
Us, everybody.
Like, the big secret was out now. Now everybody's getting a new Kindle, and everybody knows why. More readers were going to signings and going, yes, I enjoy smut. And that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, I thought rock and roll fans were cool. No, readers. Their moms read, their sisters read, their grandma, everybody comes to these signings.
Yeah.
And we love making dirty old ladies laugh. I mean, I love the dirty old
Yeah.
ladies because they don't give a single fuck anymore. They are just out in the field and loud and proud, and I love it. So, I tell people all the time, I get to turn on strangers for a living. That's awesome. That is so
Yeah.
just essential, you got to have stuff that you get into. So we found a world in that. We found a home. And we also found, because we had some friends that were in romance that were mixed. They did some trad publishing and they did some self-publishing, and so they were able to share those numbers with us too. Like, okay, here's what I'm getting on this. Here's what I'm getting on this. And by the way, since I just released with them, they won't let me release anything for another year.
Yeah.
We're like, a year? No, we're releasing every six to 8 weeks. We are going to continue to do this because this is the pace that we've figured out. We can extend ourselves out. This is what it is, because we don't like to do advertising. We do very little of it. And what I was going to say, that's something that's been a little bit different about our journey, as they say, is that most people that are self-published have to have some form of advertising, because what you're paying for with the trad publishers is their Rolodex, their shelf space, their contacts, just like the record industry, just like the movie industry, everything. Yeah, you can do whatever you want on your own. Everybody can record an album in their bedroom with GarageBand and release it and win a Grammy. It happens.
And I'm not saying that if, I got a great offer from a trad pub that I wouldn't take it.
Absolutely.
Just back then, for me, it wasn't the right offer. You know what I mean? It's like, I would love to see my books in a store. That would be neat. It would be really neat to see my book.
But do people go to stores anyway?
Yeah.
So it's all her books, all my books, under Trixie Publishing. You can buy them wherever you buy books. And even if you want to go to Barnes & Noble and order it, you can. It's all there. The only thing we don't have is that Rolodex. So we have to grind to make sure that people know who we are, do signings. We host something called the Books and Booze Cruise. We just did our first maiden voyage. We've done 4 signings at sea with another organization. That organization went away, and we said, look, let's just do our own party. Instead of going to so many signings every year, let's just throw a big party on a boat, because that's where we like to go. So we took 180 people, went up to Alaska, and partied our asses off and sold books, and readers got to meet authors, and authors got to meet readers, and hang out with them. And now we're doing one to the Eastern Caribbean, 2027 in March. Because everybody said that they were going to choke us if we didn't do another one. So we're doing another one.
You're like, okay, I don't want to get choked.
Or maybe I do.
Tell me what I do and don't want. And it really, again, it's about spreading the love, about connecting people, and about spending time with readers and saying, you matter to us. You're the reason that we write, So we've found a home in self-publishing. If there are publishing options out there, we would be very, very selective about them and very, very careful, because we like having control. We're also just control freaks. So we like to have control over as many aspects as you can, because once the book's out there, then you don't have control.
Yeah.
They have to buy it and love it and recommend it and like it and get on the socials and talk about it. And fortunately, like you said, we have nice social media engagement.
Yeah.
There are people that have way higher engagement, but I don't dig the cut of their jib, There's negativity and there is drama on their stuff, and we don't do drama. We abhor drama. We try to keep the drama to the page. And that way, any connection we're having with readers is based on the books and based on who we are, not because this is the author's site to go to today and dish all the goss. We hear it. We just don't spread it around.
I feel like if you put good out, good comes back. And so that's kind of how my philosophy is about, I don't want to say something negative. I can hear it, filter it, but I want to make sure that on my social media, because it's on the internet, it's out there, never going away. You got to be careful what you put out there.
Yeah.
I think it was around 1999 when people started, high-speed internet kind of changed everything, and people started, chat groups started becoming what would become social media and stuff. And even back then, I just never had a screen name. I just thought, whatever I say online, I'm gonna act like that person's right here, and I don't even want a screen name to hide behind of anonymity. And when I first started writing, people told me, "Well, you're gonna write as a woman, right?" And I was like, "What? No, I'm gonna write as Jack, because I've got to be Jack Davenport. She's Piper Davenport. I can't, I got to be." And they're like, "Well, you'll make a lot more money if they think you're a woman, because some people don't want to read romance from a male's point of view." I'm like, "Well, that's ridiculous. I love my female characters. I love writing them, and I have to be accountable to people. They're going to let me know if I'm doing a bad job." And I said, "No." I said, I asked, "Does it mean I would have to lie on the internet about who I am?" And they said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Then it's never happening. Never, ever, ever going to happen."
Yeah.
We try to be as transparent as possible. It's why we do this,
Yeah.
But the path that worked for us may not work for anybody else. That's the weird thing about everybody's path. I once heard somebody say, your path to success seals up once you walk through it. Because we've had people that we've tried to, "Hey, come on, take our hand, let's go." And then you're like holding a bloody limb. Where's the rest of them? Where's the rest of my arm? I didn't know that was going to happen. So it's tough. So take everything that we say with a grain of salt, because
well, you can learn from other people. You can take what other people have done, learn from their mistakes, learn from their successes, and then you have to have the decisiveness to figure out how you could use that for your own path. Because you're right, you could give them step by step by step. This is how you become a successful author. It might not work.
Well, I don't like anybody selling this is how you do it. Let me show you the course of success. But like you said, if some of it resonates, 10% of it resonates, and you go, "Well, that I don't like that and that, but that, okay, that's me." Then I guess it's all helpful. But sometimes it just feels a little bit icky to me. I don't, I don't know. But I have nobody.
Next, I want to play the little game. This is supposed to be kind of like rapid fire answers. I'm going to ask which author. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question, and you guys are going to decide which author is most likely to. Okay?
Okay, this is fun.
Which author is more likely to kill off a beloved character just for emotional damage?
He's always trying to kill my characters off.
I'm always trying to save my husband's characters. I'm like, I really like this character. Do they have to betray everybody? And he's like, don't think about it too hard.
Exactly.
Okay. Which
sometimes
author?
People just gotta die. What are you gonna do?
Sometimes they gotta die. Which author falls in love with their own villain? Piper's pretty confident.
I fall in love with his villains.
Yeah, we're both pretty villain.
Yeah.
We like villains.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a tie. That's a bad answer.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
It's more likely. Okay. So which author gets more emotionally attached to their characters?
You go into a bit of a low-grade depression when you finish a book, because it's kind of like if you've ever binged watch a TV series and fall in love with it, that's the closest I can think. When it's done, you're like,
too
well, that got canceled, which is even worse.
I know.
But you just feel like, oh, I don't get to hang around with those people anymore.
Yeah.
And so, you're going to go and there'll be the background characters in the next hero's book, but you're kind of like, oh, I like that guy. I like hanging around with him. Or man, that's hard. But she does.
Yeah.
Which author sneaks inside jokes about your marriage into the book?
That's all we do. That's our entire career.
It's both of us.
Entire career.
Or, well, I'll be writing
way cheaper than marriage therapy.
To War, Hatch and Maisie were having a gigantic knockdown, drag out fight.
She is Maisie and I am Hatch. Yeah.
He walked into the room and I looked at him and he's like, "What?
What did I do?" It's like, you're in so much trouble. It's kind of like when you have a dream and your spouse does something to you and you wake up pissed off.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. When Hatch is in hot water, I'm in hot water.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Okay, last question is, which author would secretly keep writing if the other said, "Okay, let's go take a break"?
Oh, 100%.
I
do other, I come up, I do music. I
just write. I just sit with my computer open and I write even when he's off doing other things. I write all day long, all the time.
Okay, so this is moving into questions.
I love it while I'm doing it, but I never want to do it, if that makes sense. Because
that makes sense.
The writer's two favorite things are having written and not writing. Oh, when people say, "Oh, I'm a writer because I love to write," I'm like, "Yeah, you do those other things more." But yeah, but we love it,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I have to get over that. This is homework, initial PTSD feeling. I don't know if anybody
Yeah,
likes
that never leaves.
Yeah.
How do you guys handle creative disagreements in your books?
I yell at him a lot.
She wins.
I tell him that he's an idiot.
But it's good because if I have, like she said, she didn't want to marry a yes man.
No.
And I didn't want to marry a dish rag. So it was like, okay, because sometimes people think we're stubborn because we're very opinionated and outspoken.
Yeah.
But our minds can be changed. We love having our minds changed. Like,
Yeah.
wow, I used to think about life like that.
Right.
Huh. Religion is a big thing. Most people are not raised in a religion and leave. That's very, very rare. We're finding more and more people that have done it because it does take a whole different mindset. And you tilt your head and you go, what if life didn't look like that? What if I didn't believe that? And it's okay to change your mind. We've had some people that knew us back in those times, like, wow, didn't see that coming. But they're like, but you're the same exact people.
Right.
So, a mind change doesn't have to come with a personality change or a lobotomy.
Right.
Or falling in love with a religion or whatever. Like, that's okay too. Like,
Right.
you can change your mind and have it kind of completely
Yeah.
gone. So if we have a compelling argument and I really feel, no, we should do this, or she really feels like, no, we should do this, we will listen. The best argument
Yeah.
always wins.
But mostly
Mostly she does. And I bow to her expertise and I go, hey, look, this world even more than I do. I've got a pretty good handle on it, but it's her heartbeat.
Do you guys think that writing together has strengthened your relationship? And if so, in what ways?
It has. I think because it has helped us communicate better. It's given me tools to word things differently, which I don't know if that makes sense.
Sometimes you need to rewrite what you're about to say to somebody before it comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
We've learned things about each other.
Yeah.
You like that? Like surprises.
Yeah.
She was far kinkier than I knew. Than she knew. And romance books helped unlock that with her. And it's not just, okay, she's kinky in bed. She had religious-based shame associated to sex.
True.
And I'm the only man she's ever been with. We were young when we got married and we wanted to. There was no surprise pregnancy or anything like that, reasons to get married back in the day. But no, we just wanted to be married. So she was pretty, I hate the word vanilla because as an insult because I love vanilla, but she was very vanilla.
Yeah.
And I followed suit because great. And our sex life was absolutely fine, but it's absolutely better once she realized who she was. And then I was able to realize who I am. It's great. It's much better. I love seeing husbands at book signings because they look at us and they give us the thank you, thank you, thank you. And I get it. And romance books changed my life too. So I get it. No.
Yeah.
And we fight as our characters sometimes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How do you guys help when the other person is maybe struggling with doubt or imposter syndrome or just struggling with, I don't know if I can keep doing this? How do you guys encourage each other and help nurture each other's passions to keep going?
It's a constant thing. To live this life, the life of an artiste, is 1% of 1% of the population of any society. It's always been about the same anthropologically. So you go, wow, one show business. There's only one show business, and that's from guy who does stand-up comedy traffic school to, person juggling on the street. There is somebody who feels they have a story to tell and an audience to tell it to. And that relationship has been around forever and ever. And it also, you walk away from, boy, that felt great, to, was that as great as I thought it was, to, I bet it wasn't great, to, I suck. I suck so bad, the cycle of writing. Oh, I have a great idea. Hey, this is going really well. Hey, this is hard. I don't think this is great. I am a piece of flaming dog poop.
Yeah.
And then, new book. Get to ride that cycle again. New book. It happens, and you have to tell the other person, hey, you're Piper fucking Davenport. Don't you forget it. And she has to tell me, Remind me.
I think with my husband, the biggest thing I've learned is that he needs I'm his biggest cheerleader. I'm also his closest critique partner and everything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the world will critique him and the world will say what they're going to say. But he needs to know that I'm going to be there supporting him, cheering him on.
Yes.
Yep.
Because even the most confident, my husband's a very confident man, but he still has those doubts that just come. And so, yeah, I think that's awesome. You guys' relationship is really beautiful.
Well, thank you.
I think we'll stay. I think we'll stay married. People say, "How do you stay married for so long? Don't get divorced." I mean, that's really divorce wasn't even an option.
You do it.
We call it the D word. She's like, "No, there's no divorce. There's just they'll never find your body."
Not a hair, not a fiber, buddy.
I'm like, and if I did something that bad, may you get away with it then, please. I hope you get away with my murder.
I've got a couple girlfriends who'll help me.
No problem.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to kind of wrap up now. So how can readers find you guys, support you guys, find your books?
We're wide authors, so Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, all of the
Regular places on the internet.
Yep. And then
online, we hang out Instagram, Facebook mostly.
Mostly. TikTok a little bit.
Yeah, TikTok for sure. And not so much X.
No, I'm not on X.
Just never did the Twitter thing, but yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you can get me on Messenger. I mean, I'm kind of available. Email. I have a mailing list. I just don't really use it all that much. You can reach. We have a Davenport's Den group on Facebook, which is a great way. And then
if you're interested in the Books and Booze cruise,
reach out to me.
We have a user group called the Land Hose, which is people who are interested in the cruise but haven't bought tickets yet. And then we have a user group for people who purchase tickets.
Yes.
And then they're in the community.
And then if you're an author who wants to join us too, we're still open for signings, although I'm going to be closing that soon because we're getting kind of full. I keep it pretty small and intimate. I try to keep it under 200 total, including readers and authors, because it's such a neat experience for everybody. Mm-hmm. And the swag is off the chain. I do really great swag.
She's a good swag.
We're going to do
a lot of swag in her swag.
We're going to do a big pajama party with matching PJs, and it's just going to be really fun. So I think everybody's going to have a really good time. We're going to go to the Eastern Caribbean with Puerto Rico. So it's just going to be great. Out of Fort Lauderdale, March 14th for 7 days out of Florida, Fort Lauderdale, which I said. So yeah, it's going to be really fun.
That's awesome.
Jack Davenport on Facebook, Piper Davenport on Facebook.
Yep.
Easiest way to get a hold of us.
Yes.
And please message us and all that stuff. We like being harassed.
And I will link all those in the description so people can get to you quick, to harass you nice and quick. And the last question I want to ask, this is the last question I want to ask that I ask all authors that I interview, and it's, why do you write?
You know, it's funny because I feel like now it's like breathing to me. Now I don't know that I couldn't write. It started out as a challenge, almost like a dare. And now I think I write because I have to write. It's breathing for me. So that's why I write.
And I would definitely say the same thing. You know, I said earlier, it's hard for me to start, but once I start, I go, yeah, why would I be doing anything else? I never knew how much of your own personality and your own soul, you know, I didn't know that I would put so much of that in there. Because again, if your goal is to write this one and then write the next one, it would seem like you would run out of material quickly. But the human soul is a thing to be churned and chewed on and examined. And you're just looking at people with souls, meeting people with souls, and trying to get together a little bit. I mean, look, if the goal for us, again, was always live an interesting life and try to connect people with a source of love. And had we found it in rock and roll at a level where we could have sustained ourselves for, 13, 15 years, however long she's been doing that, we would have done that. If we would have found that selling fruit on the side of the road, we would have done that. So it's not just the writing, which is super rewarding. And it's not just the satisfaction of going, hey, that's a bookshelf full of stuff that we made. Well, that's pretty neat, which is reason enough to do it. That's all great. But to be in the environment of romance readers, that's my
I wasn't expecting the connection with people because I am such an introverted little chicken.
And there's a world of introverted little chickens. You know, readers are usually introverts, and authors are just ex-readers. So there's not a whole lot of me's going, hey, what do you do? You know.
So I wasn't expecting such a connection with readers, and it's such a neat community, and I've made some of my best friends in this community. So that's been really fantastic.
That's the fuel. That's the fuel.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for talking with me today. I
Thank
loved
you.
your wisdom and your banter and your energy, and I hope for a much longer, successful career of reading, writing, and connecting with readers.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having us and putting up with our dog.